Hi, this is Trent from Destroy the Planet. Today I wanted to show you some of the guitars that we used on our record, Episode 1, Hungry for the Science. So what we did with our guitars is we actually recorded everything doubled, right? So there'd be a guitar playing on the left and we'd have a completely different guitar right on the right. So the one guitar that we used the most was this one. This is a Paul Reed Smith single cut Artist. The reason I use this guitar is it's really focused, it's really tight, it's not very forgiving, so you have to be precise, but I love this guitar. You get out of it exactly what you put into it. Sound engineers really like this one because it's easy to mix. It doesn't, it's very consistent. You're playing single notes, you're playing chords, it's all kind of the same volume. Those of you guys who want to know some of the tech specs on this one, it's pretty common build here. It's a maple cap on a mahogany body. This has a Brazilian rosewood fretboard, and the pickups on this one are the Paul Reed Smith number 7s. They're very much like a JB and a Jazz. They're a hot pickup, but not so much that you can't hear the guitar anymore. Another guitar that we used to coincide with that one is also blue, is this Les Paul. This is a Les Paul Standard. This one it's a little looser than the Paul Reed Smith. It's not as focused. Together they sound big, right? You get kind of everything you want. You get the evenness of the Paul Reed Smith, and then you get this one that has a little bit more life to it, but it's not always as consistent, right? So this guitar, really cool guitar. It's a color that I've never seen on any other guitar. Kind of a neat thing about the color is the back. It looks like it's a black back. It's actually ox blood, so it's just a really, really dark red. But this guitar sounds amazing. Has the Gibson 490 and the 498 humbuckers in there. Again, very much like a JB and a Jazz. I use this guitar a lot. You see me using this one live a lot. It's really comfortable for me. It kind of does what I want to do, and it makes a really good companion for that Paul Reed Smith. On some of the songs, some of the heavier songs, I would use this guitar. This guitar is, again, it's a Les Paul Standard. It has the same pickups as the last guitar that I showed you. This one, it has a little bit more bass to it, a little bit more bottom end to it. It's a little looser when it comes to its consistency. I use this on the heavier songs. It's just a little more, I don't want to say bold, but when you combine this with the Paul Reed Smith, you do get a very bold tone and a lot of definition to it. This guitar, which is really fun, it's a Fernandez Ravel. And the reason I use this guitar is it has a sustainer built in. So some of the songs that you hear, especially in I Think I Should Know and Headlights, you hear this guitar on I Think You Should Know. This is really what makes up that verse sound where you hear the feedback. The cool thing about this guitar is at a flick of a switch, it's just infinite sustain until the batteries run out, essentially. And then I flick this switch up, and it's going to become a feedback. And so it's a great controllable feedback. So those volume swells and everything that you hear on I Think I Should Know is 100% this guitar. And then also you hear this on some of the leads on Headlights. You just hear that the guitar just starts to instantly feedback. That's kind of what this does. It's a very specialty kind of guitar. Another guitar that I used is this one. So this guitar, it's a different build than what these other ones are. This is just all mahogany. It doesn't have a maple cap. This is a Zamitis CZ24. A lot of people just call it the Hearts guitar. This guitar is really dark sounding. This has just an attitude to it. This is what we used on Maggots. this just because for those chugging chords throughout the verses, I wanted just something that had a little bit more. I don't want to say power to it, just a little bit more depth. This guitar is really cool. One thing about this guitar and the Paul Reed Smith is this has a 25-inch even scale, right? So those of you guys who know different scale lengths, Fender is going to be 25.5 inches, where Gibson is 24 3/4. Zomitis and Paul Reed Smith like to be right in the middle at 25. So the longer the scale, kind of the more depth you get to the more bottom end you're going to get. So these really help with that without getting too loose with some of these. So for the ballads, we would use a clean electric, or a lot of them have an acoustic on them. For the clean electric, or the half dirty is what I call it, electric, that you hear on some of the songs, I would use this Les Paul Jr. It has a P90 pickup in there. I think it really does that. I call it like half dirty sound. I think it does that really well. So we use that as a doubling guitar on Reach. So on Reach, you're hearing the Paul Reed Smith and the Les Paul Jr. And then on the clean songs, the more ballad songs, you're hearing that doubled with a Telecaster. The Telecaster we used on the record is actually owned by the studio, but it's very much like this one. I think that Tellies, especially with our music, might sound a little thin when you put a little bit of gain on them. So because they're bright sounding guitars. So this with the looseness of this P90, I think sound great together. That's what we're doing when we're figuring out which guitars we're going to use on the record. Is you have to figure out what's going to balance well with the left and the right, but you don't want the exact same guitar, or else you don't get any difference, right? So so on those half dirty parts that you hear on Follow, or you hear on The Worst, it's going to be a Telly on one side of your ear, and the Les Paul Jr. on the other. So that's kind of a good look at our guitars. I have quite a few guitars, so I like to kind of select the right tool for the job here. We were lucky enough to have some patient people working with us on the record that would allow us to do certain guitars one day, bring in a whole different fleet of guitars the next day, and see what works best and what's right for the project. When you see us live, you'll see me probably play, this guitar is it's my favorite guitar I have. It's not really focused enough for some of the studio work, but all of the leads on the record were done on this guitar or on the blue Les Paul. That's just what I preferred to play leads on. It's just more comfortable to me. It's almost like we didn't care about the sound as much on that part, because we wanted to make sure I was comfortable playing them. But if I was playing a live show, I'd probably bring the blue Les Paul or bring this guy. These are some of my newer Les Pauls that I've gotten that haven't made its way outside yet, but I really love this guy. It's a beautiful guitar and it's really comfortable to play. This guitar, it's a little different flavor to it, but I do like playing it. It's just trying to incorporate a new guitar into your guitar rig kind of takes some time. And you see some other guitars to my right where these are the ones that have been used on our videos so far. So this silver, it's a custom shop standard silver sparkle. This was used on the Control video, and then the natural one to the right of it was the one they used on our Reach video. So I just wanted to show off some of the guitars for the people that ask, what kind of guitar do I use? What kind of, well, I use quite a few. I do have some favorites, but I can't do all of it without all of them. So, check out our videos on YouTube. Yeah, thanks for watching.